A house is made of wood and stone, but only love can make a home. Welcome to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, helping you make your home into one you'll love even more. On News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday, Dan Altina and Haley Johnson.
Happy Saturday,
Happy
Dan.
Saturday.
Yeah, we're all here ready to have fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tons of fun.
Well, we found out we have 6 more weeks of winter, according to the groundhog.
Yeah, not so fun.
Fortunately, I'm sure other people have heard this, but I did have to dig into his accuracy rate. It's very low. When he predicts 6 more weeks of winter, he's right 36% of the time.
That's not good.
No.
He could be a weatherman.
Yeah,
Well,
he
actually-
is a weatherman. Most famous weatherman.
Yeah, so anyway, we probably don't have to put a ton of stock into that. But we did like the idea that if winter's going to last, we want to figure out some fun things to do.
Let's find some stuff to do.
And we spent some time talking about that. Dan, you and I were talking about that, and then Haley joined the show, and we were talking about let's think up some things that are great fun for the winter. And we've come up with some of those things. We've come up with an indoor thing that we're going to talk about in a little
indoor
bit.
Cats.
Yeah. And it's good. I mean, super good. You're going to want to be a part of listening to that. So hang on for that. It's coming up. But right now, we want to jump into something that Haley tackled.
Yeah.
An extreme sport outside. It's going to make you jealous, Dan.
Okay, you
I'm
ready?
going to make you jealous. So you had mentioned to me, actually, that there is this Muskegon Winter Sports Complex where you could go ice skating through the woods. It sounded really cool. And I ended up going on the website on Saturday and saw there's also luging. And I was like, well, that's unique. I've lived in a lot of places. That's never been an option.
Right.
Right.
So I was like, well, we've got to do it now. So my husband and I sign up for this class and go, and I didn't really ever expect I would ever be a luger.
And now you are?
And now I'm a luger.
Cool.
A huge luger.
Was it fun?
It was super fun. We loved it. And I'm super competitive. And we walk up
Did you
right
beat 'em?
away. Well, I'll get to it.
Okay.
So right away, the teacher's handing out to the previous class the medals that people won. So you
Oh,
can
really?
actually
Medals?
win gold, silver, bronze.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm just hooked. Like, I have to win a medal. And I didn't, of course, because
You didn't win a medal.
I overthought everything. I mean,
Oh.
this is a very subtle extreme sport.
All right.
It's very small movements that make a huge difference. You've got to essentially keep yourself super tight to the sled, but then you also have to be very relaxed. And that's a hard balance to strike,
All right.
especially when you're going quickly. And all of your instincts are telling you if you go towards a wall, you need
Tense up.
to get off of the wall. And so you change your posture, you push your arm or your leg out. And as soon as you do that,
Your time goes down the drain.
It's done. You've lost.
Right.
And I couldn't not do that. It's such a hard habit to break. Just stay relaxed. Don't even look side to side unless you want to turn that way, essentially.
Right. Look where you want to go, not where you're
Exactly.
going.
And that's not something I'm good at, apparently. So I did not win. Now I'm like motivated that I need to practice this at home so I can go back. I'm going to win at least bronze next time. It's got to happen.
Well, yeah, because we're not going to let you stay on the show. We only have ranking medalists on the show, right?
Right.
I have gold in a number of different things.
Me
I'm
too.
sure you do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Haley, we expect success.
Step it up.
So it's the Muskegon Winter Sports Complex.
What do they have
And-
besides luge?
Yeah.
Well, besides luging, they've got ice skating, the one where you ice skate through the woods.
Right, that's
That
interesting.
sounds really cool.
Not just a
Yes.
great big rink, but you mentioned that they had rinks
It's like
as well.
a trail, but then they've got rinks, multiple. I saw one that looked like it was a bunch of hockey kids practicing, another one where it's just, kind of a lazy river version of ice skating. And then, of course, there's snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, there's fire pits dotted throughout the
that
complex.
are going. They have them lit
Yeah.
and going, just
Tended
waiting.
fire.
Fires are for, Dan.
They're going.
To
Well,
light.
I don't have to bring my own fire
Oh, yeah,
or
no.
make my own
You don't
fire.
have to bring the fire.
The drive here was chaotic, but the
Wouldn't have been
fire's ready
so
to
bad
go.
if it wasn't for that fire in the back.
Yeah,
Well,
I
this
thought
place
that
is
was-
a nonprofit too, which is kind of cool. I mean, they're connected to the recreation parks, so you've got to have a pass to park there.
Okay, the
which
state
you
park
can,
pass.
Yeah, you can get it at their clubhouse on site, or you can order one ahead of time so you're ready to park right away. But honestly, it's such an amazing place. It's a hidden gem, really. Where there's 4 other places in the country where you can actually go luging. That's kind of incredible.
This is right in our backyard.
We're super lucky.
So the snowshoeing thing, this cross-country skiing thing, do they rent out equipment for those kinds of things?
They do, yep. So you don't have to have your own. You can rent it all there. It's super easy, and it's a naturally socially distanced activity too, right? I mean, you don't really have to worry so much when you're outdoors. Everyone's wearing a mask still, but also you're just naturally distanced doing these kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. So I know that on the website they've got a conditions tracker or something, so you can determine how things look for that particular day that you want to go, right?
Yeah, they can tell you whether it's a good day for, the luging, for example. When I went on there, it said the conditions were right, and if they weren't right, if something changed, they automatically canceled the class. So you don't have to worry about the weather so much. They're not going to let you sign up for these things if the conditions aren't appropriate.
The Muskegon Winter Sports Complex, it gets 2 thumbs up from Haley. A non-medalist
if I had,
in the luge. But still, your opinion matters.
Not an Olympian.
Some. Yeah, maybe when you have that medal, it'll matter more. Oh, the glare. Yeah, that hurts. Anyway, we'll put a link in the show notes so you can check it out yourself. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about VOCs in paint, and Dan's going to make it fun and exciting. We'll get to that in just a minute. Stay tuned.
Helping you turn your house into your dream home. This is the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, presented by Benjamin Moore on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
Well, we received a question the other day online, in the online chat, about something that we talk about in the store all the time. We've got a lot of customers who will come through, and there's just a large group of people, and it's a growing number of people that read online, look online, and start to be concerned about things like VOCs in paint. They're worried about what's in the paint and how dangerous that might be for your health. And so we thought we'd dig into it because, Haley, you and I, first thing we did was just Google it, just to let's see what people are reading out there.
Exactly.
And the very first couple of sites we found basically were telling us that if your paint is stinky, that is a
super dangerous,
major danger sign, right? And they talked about all the dangerous, terrible components in paint.
Yeah, and there's a lot of online experts, quote unquote.
Yeah, so we thought let's dig into that, and we've got Dan here. And Dan, you spent how long in the lab?
20 years-ish.
Yeah. I mean, this is a thing that once we brought it to you as a question...
You glazed over because I started boring you with a bunch of technical terms.
Professor Dan over here.
Yeah, we couldn't get him to shut up, actually. And I thought, this is a good topic. So anyway, let's talk about that. And right off the bat, what are VOCs?
Every paint manufacturer likes to talk about VOCs. What it stands for is V, volatile, O, organic, and compounds. C. So volatile means it evaporates. Organic, in a chemistry way, means something different than it does when you're talking about vegetables. Organic, in a chemistry way, means something that has carbon and hydrogen bonded together. Any compound. And there's millions of them. So volatile organic compounds. Why is that important? And what's a safe level, right? And we see all these different numbers on paint cans, and it's really hard to know. What it's all about is these class of chemicals, a large number of them, react with sunlight to form ozone, ground level ozone, which is also known as smog. Now, it doesn't just come from paint. It can come from all sorts of things. It can come from vehicle exhaust or
That's what I
power
think
plants.
Of right away. Yeah.
Right. Back in the 70s, there was all these air quality issues in big cities. And the reason for that was because cars didn't have as clean of emissions as they do now, and there was unburnt fuel that would pass through the engine and come out the tailpipe, and then that would react with sunlight to create smog. So that's what VOCs are about. They're about the creation of smog in certain situations when sunlight's present. So where the misconceptions start to come in is that VOCs are, first of all, dangerous to your health. Second of all, are create smell, or that when we smell something in the paint, that's a VOC.
Okay, so hold on. So like one of the websites that we found, the very first thing we read was that paints are full of VOCs, and it went on to say, I'm looking at it right now, that many of those VOCs are carcinogens. And then it went on to list benzene, methylene chloride, and things like that. And we brought that up to you, and you had a reaction to that.
Yeah.
But that's what people are going to, listeners at home, if they go and look, they're going to wonder, what do you mean? How is that not... How does that not affect my health?
Right. And as we were all of us looking at this, recently, Googling these things, I could follow the rabbit trails and see where those leaps were made. Mm-hmm. Benzene is something that has been regulated out of existence in consumer products for decades. Methylene chloride existed up until recently in paint strippers, but it really doesn't exist at all and never has in regular paint coatings.
Right. And that is one of those tricky things. That's the whole, the double-edged sword of online learning.
Yeah.
Because this was not an old, dated website.
No, not at all.
It was brand new. They're drawn from it. Who knows where they're getting the info from.
Right.
But we read it, as just regular homeowners, DIYers, whoever. Yeah. And it just seems like, wow.
To me,
if I open up a can of paint, I might as well just... make sure I have my plot picked out.
Right. It's clickbait is what it is. It's giving attention to an article, with a splashy headline about how dangerous this is.
The more dramatic, the better.
Yeah. And, having said that, yes, some of the chemicals that are in paint and in lots of other household products, including cleaners and even the furniture in your home, are potentially dangerous.
Right.
But some people are much more susceptible to that than others. If you have a sensitivity to smells in general,
definitely,
there's a good chance that you may have a problem with the smells in paint. But that's not to say that it's VOCs, number one, or that it's going to cause injury, number two.
Well, because what is smell? It's not the VOCs. So what is the smell coming from? It's emissions, right?
Yeah, well, it's right. It's things that are coming off with the water that's evaporating as the paint is drying. We're talking about latex paint here.
Yeah.
And so, it can be all sorts of things. It can be ammonia. There's sort of a sweet smell that comes from the latex itself. I can't really describe it, but it's that paint smell. It comes from the latex binders in paint.
But that's not necessarily a VOC.
No, correct. A lot of the things that we smell aren't necessarily VOCs, and VOCs don't necessarily have an odor.
Right. So really, if we're looking for a less stinky paint, because my mom, for example, she gets migraines really easily triggered by paint smells. So she's always looking, she thought for zero VOC paint. I tried to explain to her that it's really zero emissions or low emissions that she's looking for. Or
low odor.
Right.
Some brands like Benjamin Moore EcoSpec is designed to be very low odor, low emissions. So it's less likely that someone that's sensitive to odors and stuff like that is going to react badly.
Right. And they would use it in like hospitals and things like that, right?
And a lot of times for the reason for that is because they need to turn these rooms over quickly. They need to have somebody back in that room tomorrow, and they can't have any sort of odor lingering.
Right.
So that's why they'll use those kind of things in those institutional settings.
No, I know a lot of the Benjamin Moore line are, I don't know that we'd go and say zero emissions or anything like that, but they do have the back to use, the next day kind of a thing where the smell is meant to be gone or mostly gone. By a day. You'll never even notice that you painted is some of the idea. Yeah. I know Aura is one of those where they mention that. Well,
and Natura used to be that, right? And they had the whole commercial that is it still paint if it doesn't smell?
Right.
Yeah, well, and now Natura, Benjamin Moore dropped that line. They're phasing that out. But EcoSpec kind of steps
covered all the bases.
Into the gap there.
Yep.
Right.
It does the same things.
All right, so VOCs... You're saying, it creates this low-level ozone when exposed to sunlight. Yeah. So when it comes to choosing a paint, how important are VOCs in the consideration when we're painting inside?
Well, things that evaporate indoors find their way outdoors. And that could be potentially a problem, especially if you're doing things during the day. Another example is there's these ozone action days where they ask you to not mow your lawn, to not fill up your weed whacker with gas. Same thing. Those things don't burn very efficiently. So there's a lot of unburnt fuel that can react with air. If you did it at night, you'd be okay, really, honestly. Once it finds its way into the atmosphere, it's not necessarily going to react to form ozone. It needs the sunlight to do that. So, yeah, but it's really about outdoor air quality, but indoor air quality does play a role, especially in the short term while the paint is drying. And that's when people would be sensitive to it. Like I mentioned, the V stands for volatile, so that means these things evaporate and they're gone after a day or so, and then the risk is gone.
Right, and we kind of covered it, but I think it's really important to point out that you could buy a low VOC. You might even find something labeled 0 VOC somewhere.
Right.
And it could still smell really badly.
Yeah,
right? So don't think that you're getting away from that.
Right.
The smell part of things, because that's a lot of the times that's what people really react to.
Yes,
that's
definitely. Like the ammonia smell, because that's not a VOC, but it's really stinky.
Another thing that's kind of interesting, at least to us, is that you can find products that are low, 0 VOC all over the place, labeled that way. But when universal colorants or whatever are added to it, the colorants usually contain VOCs, and that will skew that rating dramatically at times.
Yeah. So double it.
Yeah, you think you're getting something that's low VOC, but after it's tinted to whatever color you need, it might not even be even
close. It can be a little deceiving, for sure.
And that's where it's interesting with Benjamin Moore's Gen X colorants.
Right, because that is a product that doesn't use the glycol, so it is lower, if not 0, VOC going into a paint.
So whatever it is on the label, it's going to stay that way after tinting, and we just switched colorants, Dan.
Yes.
What, a year ago?
Yep, approximately a year ago. Same thing. They're
ours aren't the Gen X
VOC
colorants that we're using. It's a different
but similar technology, high strength 0 VOC colorants. So yeah, no VOCs get added when colorant is added.
Yeah, and that's not common
I don't
around
think
the industry.
There's any other brands that really have that.
Right.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Because the Gen X was a patented technology too, so it was really, Benjamin Moore's done that since 2007, and they were kind of leading the way in the industry as far as 0 VOC goes, right? Especially with those colorants, because like you just said, you can have a product, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what you take home is low or 0.
Right. One last thing, just before we wrap this up, so 0 VOC, if that's better for everything, environment, air quality, all of those kinds of things, why aren't all paints doing that?
There's trade-offs.
Yeah.
With anything, there's trade-offs. And 0 VOC paints tend to be more difficult to apply. They're stickier. They don't flow as well. One of the things that constitutes the VOCs in paints is a flow agent, propylene glycol. It's also an antifreeze. By removing that, it makes the paint not flow out very well. The other thing is 0 VOC paints tend to not be as hard or as resistant to staining. They're a little softer. There again, it's one of the chemicals that we use to make paint harder. We don't put into 0 VOC paints. And so there's some trade-offs there.
Right. And so we're always trying to find that balance, get it as low as we can, but still deliver a product that
it needs to
performs
yeah.
the way you need it.
Yep.
There's a lot we could talk about, but it's 8:15, something like that on a Saturday morning.
This is a
lot of jargon.
A little too sciencey for right away. Anyway, if you do have questions, by all means, give any of our stores a call. You can chat with us online. You can email us at radio@repcolite.com. And we'll walk you through, help you find the best product for what you're working with. Now, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about a really fun thing I did on the weekend. We started the show with Haley's fun weekend.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about my fun weekend.
When do I get a fun weekend?
I don't know that you do.
I guess I don't.
We'll talk about that. Maybe we'll think of something fun for you to do next week.
Okay.
All right, that's all next. Stay tuned.
If you want to take your DIY skills up a rung, the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show is here to give you a boost on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
And we're back. I'm Dan Hansen. I've got Dan Altina sitting here, Haley Johnson.
Hello.
All in the safe and secure RepcoLite studio.
Right? The fortress.
Yeah, the fortress.
I called it a cave the other day. I don't know.
Yeah, you did. I made a note. Be offended about that later when I have more time. I think I've got time. I'll do that later. Nobody wants to
I was blinded when I left.
That is true. There's no windows to the outside world. So every now and then we'll go outside. We'll assume it's as gray and dreary as it was when we got here. And, the sun's out.
It's like a beautiful day. And now I can't see because I'm like, there's so much light all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, the RepcoLite Studios. But they're still a nice place.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
beautiful.
Awesome. Anyway, we're sitting here, and I want to talk about something fun that I did this weekend. And Dan, you bellyached at the end of the last segment that you don't get fun stuff to do on the weekends.
Right.
That's your fault.
I'll work on that. I know.
I thought of that
feel
later.
bad.
Give yourself some homework.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took responsibility for providing Dan's happiness, and that's not
It's
really
not the way
my
it
role.
goes, right? Okay.
I don't think that's on my job description.
All right.
So
I can
anyway,
change that.
Yeah, I know. I'll come up with something fun.
I can change that.
Right now, just live vicariously through the joy that I experienced.
I will.
Yeah. So anyway, 2 years ago, Haley, way before you were here, and Dan, you were a part of this, and to some extent, you helped us a little bit. But Betsy and I, we did a design event for architects, interior designers, DIYers attended one of the evening sessions. We had 2 evening sessions. It was just a lot of fun. And we focused on Iris Apfel, who's an interior designer originally years back. She's 98 years old now. 99. Yeah, 99. Still there. I liked her on Facebook. And every time there's a post, I have that little bit of a, is this the one?
Right. Oh, boy.
Yeah. But she's still there
gosh.
and still hilarious, and absolutely, I adore that lady. And anyway, we focused on her. Initially, she was an interior designer. She transitioned largely into fashion and all of that. And we took a bunch of fashion quotes that Iris had given and applied them to interior design. And one of my favorite takeaways from that whole event was Iris's focus on when she was about a wardrobe. When you dress, you should dress for you. Because if you've ever seen Iris, she's got the great big round glasses.
Yes, chunky jewelry.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of iconic.
Just crazy stuff. And, at first it's jarring.
Yeah.
But once you realize what she's doing, it's her thing. And she dresses for her. And we love that point because I don't know how many times I've talked to customers in the store. I've done it myself. My sister's done it. Oh, we go to somebody's house and we see how nice that looked. And we ask what the color was that you used.
Right.
Because I want to use that color. I like how it looks here. So we take all this time and we try to make our homes look like something we've seen in a magazine, something we see at somebody else's house.
Pinterest, Instagram. There's so many sources of that now.
Right. We go to that for inspiration, but often it becomes more than inspiration, and we almost feel like we're trying to duplicate that.
Yeah, we have to do this that
Right.
we've seen.
And Iris had this quote where she said, one of the greatest or the saddest things in fashion is to get dressed, look in the mirror, and see somebody else.
Yeah.
And I love that because the whole concept is don't dress based on, what you saw here, what you saw there, who you saw on the screen over here, all of those things.
Yeah, you don't need permission, I think is the point.
You want to be you. You want to find the things that really speak to you and let that play out in your wardrobe. Well, of course, there's such an easy transition to decorating at home.
For sure.
Don't duplicate somebody else's whatever. I mean, you can use that for inspiration.
Yeah, you can buy a prepackaged theme and it's already made for you. You have permission. It's accepted that this is going to look good in your house, but that's not necessarily you. Right?
My sister has a great story. I've told it on air, but I just think it makes the point so well. She, right after the Iris seminar, she attended that, and she was so excited about that because she thought, I'm going to decorate with stuff I really that speak to me, things that are quirky, things that are a little funny. I feel free. I feel like I've got permission to do some of those things. So anyway, she buys this, I think it was a cat clock, one of those old things
love
where
it.
the eyes
Oh,
go
yeah.
back and
Yeah,
forth and
cool.
the tail clicks. Something she would have avoided before. Not avoided, she just never would have felt
It's too
comfortable
kitsch.
putting it in her house.
Right.
People are going to laugh at her. People are going to think it's ridiculous. It doesn't fit my style. Anyway, she buys that and puts it up in this room that she's redoing. And her college-age son was walking through one day, and she can tell he's really taken in that clock. He's been taking it in all week, but he's just standing there. And she thinks, okay, I know it's goofy. I know it's ridiculous. And he says, that clock, that's my favorite thing you've ever bought. And she said, what in the world? Why? And said, because that is the one thing in this whole house that is like your entire personality is in that. And I just think how fun that is. Decorating is stressful.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because we feel we've got to hit this level.
Well, it's this
We don't want to do it wrong.
presentation for the public, right? You're inviting people in, and now you're being judged on your space.
Right.
It's a vulnerable thing, really, and it's a creative act to design and to decorate because it is artistic, right?
Yeah.
And that comes with a level of vulnerability. It's the hardest part of all of that. So if you give yourself permission, I think, to just really like what sparks joy in you, it takes it to a whole different... Now it's authentic.
Right.
You can't not like something that's authentic. It's just the way it works.
Right. So that sounds really good. And I really bought into that. And I really believe that. The thing is, I've run stuck on trying to implement that. So I'll go to a store and I'll find all these things. Oh, I like that. That speaks to me. There's 12 of them on the shelf. How unique is this? Does everybody have the same thing at home?
Right.
That's kind of against what I was trying to do. So I've kind of been in this little bit of a funk trying to figure things out. And I've loved antique malls and places like that, where you can wander. The problem that I've run into is that I'm a little cheap. I like to hold on to my money tightly. Sometimes I've got to pry it out of my little clenched fist.
All right, George.
Yeah. So the antique places don't offer... It's not really conducive to my shopping.
It's above your, station.
Well, I could afford some of it, but I don't want to. Most of it I can't afford.
Okay.
Or
Anyway,
you question whether it's the right price or not, too.
Right. All of those things. And honestly, I've been to some places where, it's fun at first, and then I see the same thing over and over again. That's always been, from booth to booth to booth to booth.
Right.
Visual fatigue.
It's the same thing, right? Anyway, to get to my fun thing.
Yeah.
And everybody needs to do this because you recommended a winter sporty kind of a thing. Go out and have fun outdoors. If that's not your bag, I found the place. Haley, you actually found it for me, but I went and experienced it myself.
Yes.
Wally's Treasures Antique Mall. It's in Grand Rapids. It's on 28th Street. We'll put the full address and a link to their website in the show notes. But Haley had recommended this place basically because you thought it was curated so well. Each little booth you thought was so good.
Because sometimes you go into those places and each booth has such a stylized, okay, I'm just going to have glassware in this booth, or I'm just going to have quilts in this booth. And I like to look through all the different kinds of objects.
Oh, sure.
So, and if I just skip by all those ones because that's not what I'm looking for, maybe there was something in there, but I'm just glancing over it now. When there's a nice mix in every booth, it makes me look harder.
Yeah.
And then I find stuff that I might not have even looked at before. And I love that about this place.
It was so cool. There's I think they've got 150 or more vendors. It doesn't look so huge on the outside.
Yeah, very unassuming.
Right. But you get in there and you've got this whole main level, I guess you'd say, and everything was wonderful. My daughter and I went, and the very first booth she stopped in, she snagged something right off the bat that just jumped out at her. And then we just wandered and wandered. And then we found, there's a little bit of an upstairs. And there's a basement area. And there's a little section off of that. It took us a couple of hours, if not more, to wander through it. And it was good all the way through. The prices were very reasonable.
Yeah, the prices are really good.
And I guess getting back to how I started this whole thing, with the Iris Apfel thing and the design event, to tie that together with this is as we wandered, I ended up finding a couple of things. I wandered past one booth and there was this, it was like a little magazine rack. And I've kind of wanted something to put the books and stuff by my chair. They're piled up on an end table now and I can kind of tuck it off to the side. And I thought that looks right. It looks like it would fit. It looks like it matches everything that I'm kind of doing. Oh, maybe I should get that. The price was good. But it didn't, I don't know. It just didn't
speak to you.
It didn't close the deal.
Right.
So we kept wandering, keeping that in mind. And we found this dumb brass duck. A great big, life-sized brass duck standing there. His mouth's open. He's got this weird lump on his head.
He's quacking.
And my daughter and I both stared at him for a few minutes, or seconds, and then we start laughing. Okay. So we kept wandering. We kept coming back to the duck. And I finally realized this is one of those things. Where am I going to put it? I wasn't really sure. I wasn't sure that it fits with any kind of style or anything, but it spoke to me. And honestly, right after that design event, Caroline Dwan, she's been on our show before. She's the Midwest marketing rep for Benjamin Moore. And anyway, she had attended our Iris event. And she called me the day after, and she was crying because it had impacted her so much.
Wow.
And she talked about things that she had skipped past at stores because they didn't fit her style. And then after she had passed it up, she realized, ooh, that thing really was speaking to me, and now it's gone. She's lost her chance. So based on that conversation, I thought we have to have this duck. So we snagged this duck, and I cannot tell you how it's become a part of not just our home. It literally is a part of our family, as weird as that is.
Have you named it yet?
It's Harold.
That's a good duck name.
The kids talk to it, not in a weird way, maybe in a weird way. He's moved around the house. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
He fits in, and it's just that one little thing. It's that step towards making the space ours. We'll have other stuff on there that we'll find at other stores, and parts of the home will always look like somebody else's, but there's all these little elements that make it. There's not going to be many people that have a Harold.
No.
Not like ours.
No.
Because ours has an attitude. The thing is, decorating that way is going to take you a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
But decorating isn't a sprint.
It's a marathon.
Yeah, and I think sometimes because my tendency has been, let's get this room finished up. So you snag everything.
Yep.
The beauty of what we did this past weekend is the joy of the hunt. Because let me tell you, picking through a place like that.
Right. That in itself is an enjoyable experience.
So much fun. Because you're just thinking, the next corner, who knows what I'm going to find? There's going to be something really cool there. And you gotta pay attention. And when you find it, especially I was with somebody else. I was so excited to show them what I found.
Exactly.
And it was just so much fun. So we had the joy of the hunt, the excitement of the find, the story that I've got to tell. I mean,
and you got Harold at home every day.
And then the payoff is Harold, plus the other things we found. Wally's
Makes a big difference.
Treasures Antique Mall in Grand Rapids. If that even sounds remotely fun, you've got to check that place out.
Definitely.
I've been to a lot of them, and there's a lot of good ones. I don't mean that this is the only good antique mall or a place like this, but it's a really good one. Haley, you agree?
One of my favorites.
Yeah, Dan, I'm giving you an assignment. Go have fun this weekend.
All right.
At Wally's Treasures, and then go luging.
It's going to be a long weekend for me.
Yeah, it's a fun weekend, though.
Yeah, busy.
All right. Anyway, we'll put links in the show notes. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about how to choose color in the midst of all of the COVID. Not everybody's comfortable coming into stores, and color is a huge part of a paint selection. Is there really a bigger part? I guess there's equal parts, but it's a big one.
It's a big one.
And we're going to help you get there, and that's all coming up next. Stay tuned.
If you want to take your DIY skills up a rung, the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show is here to give you a boost on News Radio Wood 1300 and 106.9 FM.
And we're back. And Haley, this week you were talking about something, a project that your mom is working on. And there were a number of obstacles that she ran into.
Exactly.
And as we talked about it, we thought this might be perfect to talk about on air.
I think a lot of people can relate.
A lot of people will relate. So what's she working on, and what were some of the obstacles she's been hitting?
Well, so my mom is repainting the basement. She needs to choose color, and she's someone that struggles with that process in normal circumstances. Now with COVID, she has an immune deficiency, so she doesn't want to spend a ton of time in the store, right? And I get that. And I'm here to help her with color selection. However, it got me thinking there's a lot of tools that exist for that already. Just the innovation is there, but with COVID, even more so, you can order these color chips online on our website. So there's a lot of options out there.
Right. We did run into that. I had an email from a customer maybe a month ago or so, and it was the same thing. I need to pick colors for a project. I don't want to come into the store. We've got these, some health concerns. How in the world do we even begin to get colors? And it's great to have the tools that have developed. I know Benjamin Moore has the Color Portfolio app. You can put it on your phone, Apple, Android, doesn't matter what system you work with. It's a free app. And it came out right at the beginning.
Yeah, the timing was perfect.
Yeah, and it wasn't intentional at all. They didn't react to COVID. It actually came out just prior to everything that started to happen last year.
They predicted the future.
Yeah. And the app itself is really, really helpful. You've got all these different fan decks. And the fan decks, when we talk about that, that's just the collection of colors. A lot of people go into the store and they'll get a deck that's a great big heavy...
It's like all the color chips in one book.
All the color chips in a little booklet. And the Benjamin Moore Color Portfolio app has digital representations of those fan decks. And you can literally look at the chip. That's one of the things I like best about that app is that you're not looking at just the one color. You're looking at the whole color chip, really. The lighter versions, the darker versions, the colors next to it.
Yeah, it's like looking at the color chip rack in the store in that way. You can see everything at once, but then you can drill down to exactly the color chip you're interested in looking at. Same thing with the color viewer online. Benjamin Moore has the color viewer on their website. You can plug in colors into a room, kind of imagine what it would look like, whether it's your picture or one that's pre-made on there already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the color app will do that same thing as well. You can take a picture of a space in your home, and it will apply the color digitally to that area. It's not perfect,
but it's a great starting point.
It's a good
visualizer.
I loved it for front doors. That's where I found it to be really helpful, because the app was able to easily distinguish the front door and to block that area out, mask it off.
Yeah, it's a little more simple.
Yeah, so it really worked well to see different colors on a front door. But either way, there are a couple options right there. We've got links right on the RepcoLite.com website, right under a little header called Color Tools, and it will help you get where you need to go. There's also fan decks that are available, literal handheld fan decks that have, thousands and thousands of colors in them, and you can get those at any of our stores.
Right, and that kind of comes with another downside, right? I mean, first downside is our screens aren't all the same, so colors can be altered. The second one, with having an entire fan deck in front of you, is now you have all of the options.
Right.
And there's this color paralysis that happens.
It's called the paradox of choice.
Yeah. You just sit there with too many options, but at least it gets you started.
Yeah, you can see it in your own light, at least. It's more accurate in that way.
So what we'd recommend is whatever you use, any of these types of tools, you use them as starting points to try to narrow down kind of what you're thinking. And then we've got a really slick system in place. I think it's slick. I was instrumental in putting this together.
Oh, so no wonder.
Yeah.
So when you find the flaws,
you think you're
just let me know.
Slick.
No, it's like once in a while I get lucky and something seems to work. But anyway, you can go to our online store and you can enter color chips. And it doesn't even charge you, because I'm big-hearted like that. But you can enter whatever you want. We've had a number of customers come in. They'll list 15 color chips, and then they'll place that order. They can select which store they want to pick it up, and then that store will pull all of those color chips, throw them in an envelope, and then when you arrive curbside, they'll bring it right out to you. And you've got all the actual chips to take home and take a look at.
Right.
I have to admit that is slick.
It is slick.
Is. I mean, you've already narrowed it down on the website or color visualizer, portfolio, fan deck, and now you can just get the ones that maybe are the top picks.
Right. Then you do the Benjamin Moore sample pints.
Yes. Final
you've
step.
kind of looked at the colors at home. You've narrowed it down to a couple colors. And then if you need one more step to make sure you've got the right thing, you can order those sample pints. Again, they can be ordered online and brought out curbside with exactly the color you need. Now, one other thing I should mention is that if you do need to talk to somebody, and you sometimes I hate the phone thing. I don't like calling people to get answers on the phone a lot of the times.
Yeah.
I talk with my hands.
Right.
I find I'm more effective.
Communicate.
Yeah, I swing my arms.
Get knocked down all the time.
When I can't do that, I feel like I'm not communicating well. So some people do. They want to actually have a conversation, and all of our stores, if you walk in, if you call them and let them know that you don't feel comfortable coming in, we'll come out.
Yeah.
And we can have a conversation outside.
Right.
Sure.
We have color consultants. So, I mean, that's what they're there for, is to help you through that process, make it a little bit easier, because it can be overwhelming, even if you have all these tools.
Right. And so we're there to help whatever we can do to get you where you need to go. We've got a lot of different things available to you. And if you need to do color matching or anything like that, I should mention that that's also something we can do. If you've got a competitor's chip,
right,
we can match that.
Or a pillow.
A pillow.
A pillow.
Right. Start with a phone conversation. Start with a chat online. And we'll kind of direct you towards the best way to get you what you need in the easiest, most convenient way possible.
Perfect.
And that's it. That's all the time we've got. We're going to wrap it up. Dan, you've got stuff to do this weekend.
I guess I do.
Some real
antique
homework.
mauling and you're luging.
Right.
And we want to know how that went next week.
Right. If you don't hear from me next week, you'll know.
That's right. Whatever you do today, make sure you have a good one. Make sure paint's a part of it. All of the RepcoLite and Port City paint stores are open until 3, ready to help. I'm Dan Hansen.
I'm Dan Altina.
And I'm Haley Johnson.
Thanks for listening.